You know, one thing that I've always had questions about, that I'm sure many of you have questions about too, why can't we talk about abortion? You know, abortion is this topic that I think a lot of people have questions about, but like, okay, so here's what I think. Every year in Canada, they are based on reports, there's over 100,000 abortions, sometimes less, sometimes more, but it hovers around 100,000 abortions every year, 100,000. So, and the vast majority of these are within the first trimester. Like, it's very rare that a woman has an abortion in the final trimester of her pregnancy. But I think that's where the debate really skews. I think Canada's very progressive when it comes to abortion, but it's until we start talking about that final trimester. And to me, it's like, okay, then shouldn't we talk about that final trimester? I mean, I know that sounds kind of weird, but here's something to think about. If you ask most Canadians, every Canadian would say 100% a woman should have access to abortion. But ask Canadians that same question and say, should a woman have access in the final trimester of her abortion, or of her pregnancy? And the answer gets very different. And I think it's because at that point, a lot of Canadians wonder, you know, like, is it now a child? Is it now a baby? And that seems a bit strange. And maybe not a lot of Canadians support that. Actually, this is still good. Okay, so if that's the case, then should we not as a country open up the conversation to that final trimester and say to our elected officials, like, maybe there should be laws that in the final trimester, there has to be like significant like medical harm to the mother if she were to go through with a pregnancy or something like that. But right now, as it stands, I believe any woman at any term of her pregnancy can get an abortion in Canada. So I would like to see the conversation about the final trimester, not about abortion, the procedure. I think it's very much about that third trimester. So I would like to explore that some more and be like, okay, like, let's really put this out there and see where things are, and not, you know, not try to make Canadians' minds for themselves. You know, again, it's an uncomfortable conversation, super uncomfortable. But sorry, I'm just organizing my medicine cabinet here. It's super uncomfortable, but I think it's also absolutely necessary that we as a society talk about these things instead of allowing, you know, politicians or whomever to kind of make those decisions for us. That's not fair, because our politicians don't friggin' know what the best idea is. So I would say, why don't we open up abortion and talk about the third trimester and say to ourselves, should there be laws governing the third trimester if a woman is to go through with an abortion at that point, knowing that it's very rare, first of all, that a woman would want an abortion in the third trimester, and that we as a society have to make some kind of like laws that govern that, so that, you know, we protect the woman, we protect the child, et cetera, et cetera. Just one, and I did this whole series on abortion, and I'm sure a lot of people have thoughts about me doing that, but it's an awkward conversation, but we have to have it. I think as a society, as a functioning society, I think we have to kind of lean into these uncomfortable conversations. Here's another question on abortion that I've always wanted to kind of ask. Uh-oh, this friggin' cabinet is so disorganized. Okay, that's as organized as I'm getting it today. Oh shit. So I did this series on abortion, and oh fuck. Why don't we ever talk about young girls going for multiple abortions, or multiple times? I feel like there is an opportunity to talk about that as well. Because when I did my series on abortion, all sides found that there's clear lacking education on the topic. So you have a lot of young girls coming in and getting abortions done, and then perhaps they come back multiple times in some cases. We don't have enough data on that particularly, of young girls, like let's say in their teenage years, coming back multiple times for an abortion. But if that's the case, and if that is actually happening, I think there's an education piece that's missing. And interestingly enough, both pro-choice and pro-life groups all agreed that more education for young girls in particular, and men, but young girls in particular, because when you go through an abortion, there's depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, all types of mental, emotional health that a woman goes through. And there's no education about it. And so all sides agreed that more education is absolutely necessary on family planning, safe sex, etc. But if we transition this to the United States, where support for abortion is much lower than Canada, I think that we could start talking about this topic from an education perspective.